January 19th. And I was just reading a lot of information that I have on figs, which I'll get to in a second. But then I discovered we had a little friend here on our ledge trying to suck some warmth out of the bricks. It snowed, and so there's a nice layer of snow, which I'm happy about because it protects my figs, keeps the ground from freezing, it keeps the roots from freezing, or at least helps to prevent it from doing so. When I cover my figs, I always try to remember that one of the big benefits from covering with a tarp, which I demonstrated in my last video, is that it keeps the ground from freezing around the roots. And if it does, it thaws out in the daytime when the sun comes out and beats down on the tarp itself and heats up inside, and it prevents the ground from freezing deeply. And so I think that's one of the big factors in why wrapping helps to preserve your figs through the winter, which it doesn't always work. But that particular video was about trying to remember not to let your coverings heat up too much and the figs inside them to where they'll come out of dormancy early, and that will kill them for sure. Now, I'm going to do something that I started to do yesterday, and I think you might find this interesting. I started getting out all my memorabilia. This is nothing compared to what I have on my research on figs that I started decades ago. And I think I decided now, since I videoed the squirrel a little while, poor thing, and she's rummaging up some nuts, gathering up some cashews and some walnuts for the little squirrel we put on the ledge there. And of course, I know that you might have heard the adage, no good deed goes unpunished. So I might imagine that squirrel will be eating my figs in the spring or in the summer or around July, if you happen to be so fortunate to have San Pedro figs in your collection, like the Feliciano Bianco or the Desert King or any others that you might be able to grow successfully. But this is some of the information that I've gathered over the years. I researched so many libraries over the country. Everything had to be photocopied one page at a time. All of the journals that I was interested in, and the books that I have, and this one's special. I really need, let me put, you want to see this. I think you want to see this. This is something that's precious to me. I've never mentioned these things. I've got so many, really, I think, important documents. I have Eison's letters to Ira Condit and Ira Condit's letters to Gustav Eisen, a hero, I've had very few in my life, people that I admired enormously. Those two I did, and they became great friends. What am I getting ahead of myself? Because this is impromptu, because I was just doing the squirrel. Now it's leading to this. This is my this book here is special to me because a librarian friend that I developed a friendship with, Debbie and I did over the years. She gifted this to me. I tortured her up in Rhode Island. She was a university, still is, librarian. And I tortured her by wanting every single thing I could find on Fix, everything. And she did provide it to me, one page at a time. So many things. Tons and tons of, so much stuff. This is nothing, because I'll admit this and I'll get yelled at later for mentioning it, but under the bed, I've got 5 of these things. But anyway, she sent me this book. It was not available at all in the United States. It had to come from Amsterdam, The Fig by Ira Condit. And I probably, with my eyes, I wore this book out because I read it over and over again. I don't know if I could get this. Let's see. I don't know if I could get this so that you could read it. But this was from the librarian. And she mentions I better not, she knew me, and she said, you better not ruin this book by spilling coffee or tea on it, which I would probably be inclined to do. Not purposefully, but just by nature. And the book is fabulous, and I've read it many, many times. And the insights, that's what it's all about with me. The insights about figs, the entire science of figs, not even just growing them, but all of the science behind that and everything it means. You know, I'm talking about culturally, psychologically. I'm talking about from health perspectives. I'm talking about just from being enthusiastic and just enjoying the incredible magic of figs, the magic of them, you know, the mystery of them, and how wonderful they are. And I don't know, I just was smitten, completely smitten. And I guess you might say mesmerized in a sense, but a cognitive sense, where I just got addicted to figs when I was a little boy, and it's never worn out. And that's what he had. Ira Condit, he had that too, and Gustav Eisen, and I have their letters, and they became very acquainted with one. They became good friends. Here, maybe I can show you. You might want to read. I can't read all this, but I don't know if it will show up. But those of you that are interested might freeze your cameras. I mean your video. And you see here, Ira Condit. And there's so many letters. I got many of their letters, many of them. And no, guys, I have my glasses. Yeah, there we go. But the insights about the fig, here, let's take a look at this one. And then I have Gustav's letters to Condit, and they were unbelievable. And most of them were handwritten. And back 1939. And some of you might not know that Gustav himself wrote a book in 1901. A sort of like treatise on figs. But anyway, I'm getting far ahead of myself. I was completely unprepared for this. Let me go back to the one book I promised to show you. Hi, I'm back. Here is that. Again, this is completely impromptu, and all of my videos really, none of them are rehearsed. They're all impromptu, really. But those of you that can understand French or interpret it better, please do so. This is something that I'm proud of. I don't worship or I don't idol people. I never have. Maybe my grandfather. A couple people kind of were my heroes. But I'm not a man of many heroes. And I don't really take to all of the hype about things that sometimes, well, let's just say that in our town, we've been, it's by chance, we've had three in this town and the next town, two in this town and one in the next town, extremely highly famous movie stars that were born and raised in this town. And we knew them and saw them. Big deal. All the time. In fact, I've sort of got in trouble because my brother went to school with one and extremely famous. And I went out a couple nights, and had a couple drinks, it was fun. But Debbie's always swell. She's always been swell. My better half for sure, for 46 years. Can you imagine that? As beautiful and as young as she is? Anyway, this is a book, and it was co-written by two other authors. But those of you that know about figs, you might notice that name. And this is his book, a famous book, which I wasn't going to talk about today at all, and never have in 8 years of making videos. But it all goes back to Danny Yakir, a man whom I loved enormously and respected enormously. I can't tell you how much. And I still suffer his loss. But he and his wonderful, beautiful wife, Maggie, befriended us for years. And Danny and I did so many things together. He came to America 3 times. And remember that I introduced myself and Danny 8 years ago in the video, and I would like you to watch it again because it's so full. If you listen carefully, it is so full of incredible information. Danny Yakir, he had, they say 350 varieties. I never counted them, but he told me over 250, and Danny never, ever was capable of telling a lie. From Israel, a brilliant man. So much about him I could tell you. And this is a tribute to him, this today. Because, you see, he was friends, close friends with Bob. They were friends. In fact, that's how Danny got introduced to Ron DeBardo. And he got his Ron DeBardo, I'm not 1,000% sure, but I assumed it, because he went to see him all the time. And he got his Ron DeBardo from Bob. And Ron DeBardo at the time, because I was asking Danny back those days in 2004, 5, 6, 7. Back in those days, we didn't have internet. We didn't have all that. Maybe it existed. I don't even remember, but I didn't know how to use it. If it did, it was in its fledgling stages. And so I asked Bob questions. Of course, I was very curious, like I am, about figs, through Danny, and Danny would give me the answer, and then he would say things to me and ask me things, and I would say to Danny, and it was like Danny was the conduit. He was the liaison between the two of us. And my enthusiasm, I guess, bubbled over a little bit, and he made a gift of this book to me and autographed it. Genuinely autographed it and gave it to Danny to give to me. And here's the letter. Here's the letter that when Danny sent it to me. And he, in his own Israeli, he knew 5 languages. In his own hand, he tried to interpret what exactly Bald said. Now, those of you that know French, I would love to hear from you, because I don't. But there it is. But this is what he says it. mostly says, this is what it says, quote, a dedication to me. He said where he lives, I visited my old friend Pierre Baud, one of the world's best fig experts. And he is. He's had an incredible global influence over the community of figs, period. And Randy Bordeaux was one of his favorite figs. And in his book, there's only 25 figs in there that he talks about. And one of them is Randy Bordeaux. I might get into that real quick. This is going to be a long... I need to do this in a couple stages because I've got so much information I want to share with you. But maybe I just won't go too much further than this today. For those of you that are interested, for those of you who aren't, for what it's worth, Nick on the chopping block. You might just want to just turn the video off. Don't watch it. Don't believe it. But there's so much I want to tell you about the connections, like the yellow longneck fig, which later became Golden Rainbow, and before that, Ben's Golden Riverside. Well, Danny and I had that fig from George Emmerich. George Emmerich was the one who went through the fence. He told me, this is what the story he told me. We wrote each other. This is 25 years ago. And he went through the fence. He saw that all the big yellow figs, he told me, near UCD or near there. And he went and smuggled some cuttings out of what is now yellow longneck, which of course is Golden Riverside and Golden Rainbow, which I have videos to that. And so we were friends. So he sent me 3 cuttings in the mail, snail mail, and I grew them. And then when Danny came to America, I gave them to Danny. And I had experiments going on, growing them at night in the wintertime, and with lights, and not letting them get any sleep, okay? And I wanted to see what would happen because I didn't want to give up my figs all winter without having any figs growing. I missed them so much, so I picked yellow longneck. And in the spring, and Danny, with my light experiments, Danny followed along, and in the spring it had 2 breba, and they were the size of my fist. I mean, they were big. So Danny and I dubbed it half-pound breba, which of course it wasn't a half a pound, but they were huge. We didn't have a name for it. And neither did George Emmerich, the one who introduced it to the fig community. And so it was an experimental fig behind the fence. And he went through it, under it, got it. And really, I think it was discarded, except for him. He's the one that, I'm fairly sure, because it's not obtainable anywhere else. Golden Riverside is, but that's a completely different UCD fig. And I talk about that one too. I had that one too. But anyway, he sent me the cuttings and I grew it. Danny came over and got them. And then he made that video that I introduced 8 years ago, but the video was made in 2004. And I would love for you to watch it because this is a tribute to Danny Yakir, not to me. And in that video, he yells out, half-pound breba. And that's Golden Rainbow. Back then, we had it. He got it for me. And then he gave me Randy Bordeaux. And we made some exchanges. We didn't talk too much. It was not, you're not supposed to do that. But anyway, he talks about Randy Bordeaux in there. And he says it's the best fig ever. Now, I love Randy Bordeaux. I love all the figs. Every single different kind of fig. I like the berry figs. I like the honey figs. I just like a ripe fig. Give me a ripe fig. I never tasted a ripe fig I didn't like. A really, truly ripe fig I didn't like. Did you? I don't think so. And they're all variety. And I love variety. And it's debatable. But that was his opinion. He says it in the video. Baud, it was one of his favorites. It's one of the few. There's only 25 fig trees that are in this book. And let me go. Hold on a second. Okay, before I get too far off the track here, here's a couple. I'll go through them real quick. There's not many, there's 25. But the interpretation was for Debbie and Lou, friends of Danny Yakir, and all the passionate lovers of figs and fig trees. Welcome to the unique and mystique, that's a beautiful word, world of the fig trees, symbol of fraternity, meaning brotherhood and togetherness and loving figs and the passion. It was all about that. I love that. Symbol of fraternity, what it really means in its raw sense. With friendship of another passionate person, Pierre Bald. Now, Danny Yakir, there's a video now. It's 2 years ago, and I've been building up to mentioning it. Please watch Fig Varieties of the World. It was my first video introduced 8 years ago. Please watch that about Danny Yakir. And about my Uncle Mario's fig, the Feliciano Bianco. He goes, Uncle Mario! And he talks about California brown turkey that I gave him. He says, Lou, you'll recognize it. I mean, it's very interesting to listen to all of the whole video and to grasp the magnificence of this man. And here's the video 2 years ago. And it's Daniel Yakir's fig collection is alive. From Figs in Israel, November 5th, 2023. Please go back and watch that. Please watch that about Danny. And I'm going to be going back into my archives and get photographs and things because I want everybody to know about Danny Yakir. I really do. He was a magnificent figster. To me, he was the greatest figster of all times. I loved him tremendously. We had so much fun together. We just loved figs. We were so excited about it constantly. Now let me get back to this. Let's go back to the beginning. You might want to see some of these. These are the figs that he emphasized in his book. And only 25. I'm sure he had others that he liked too, but he went out of his way for these 25. And I can't read French. Maybe some of you would be interested. I think the book has been translated in English, and Debbie said she was going to get it for me, and she will, if there is one. But I'm just going to go through the pages. You will recognize some of these. Now, here, interestingly, I've raved about this fig several times because I have this fig from my Uncle Nick's collection. I have it growing in the yard, and I featured it several times. But nobody wants Brunswick. But I'll tell you what, my family, we love Brunswick. And yes, it is prone to splitting. What fig isn't? But maybe worse than a lot of them. Not all of them, because I can tell you there's some that I've gotten rid of, and even in recent years, I've thrown them on the garbage heap because they just, I don't tolerate that. But there's brown turkey. He appreciates that. He appreciated it. Brunswick. It's a fantastic tasting fig. It's wonderful. It's very popular in arid areas like in Israel too. One of the favorite figs in the country. But Bald he's French. But he likes it because it's got such a history. Which leads me to another book too. I'll do it next time. The great gardener who wrote the first book ever published, I believe ever published, and in England, the gardener of Louis XIV. And this was the fig that he always grew for the king. And he was charged with the task of having to produce figs all year round, all winter time. And he invented the greenhouse with glass, crude glass back then. He was the inventor of container figs, growing them in container, and he wrote a book. And it's a whole story, and I'm going to tell it to you. But right now, I'm telling you this story. Let's go through these fast. Do you recognize these? I do. Now, Danny yells out their names, some of the names when he's talking about the ones that were in his collection and not from the ones that he got from cuttings from mine. You'll recognize some of these for sure. And Negrone, which is my favorite of the Violet de Bordeaux variants, which it's really the same, but Negrone I think is, and I made videos of Negrone, and I grew it in the ground, and I have it in the greenhouse, and you might want to watch those. I love Negrone for a variation. It's a little earlier than my. There's Pastilliere, and here's Ronde de Bordeaux. Look at that! Isn't that amazing? Ronde de Bordeaux. I know that Baud was very, 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 very fond of Ronde. And he told Danny, because I asked him over and over, and he loved it. I'm sure he still does, although I don't know. There's Sultane. Here's an Ira Condit fig, I believe. And that's 25 figs. But one of these days I'm going to be able to read these and get them interpreted, or just buy the book. I think the book exists in English. I'm about to do more research now so that I could read them word for word. So, where do we go from here? Well, there's so much to go forward with. I have to get outside. I bought some more tarps, and I'm going to cover a few more trees. I've covered quite a few of them now with just tarps this year, hoping that I don't sustain too much dieback. And so it snowed, and the temperatures are going to drop very cold tonight. And I saw that for a couple days it's going to go down to like 15 degrees or maybe 12 even. Out here, that means 5 degrees, probably more. It's very cold out in the country where I'm from. I'm not near any towns or not near the river or anything like that to moderate. There's no microclimate here except for the house, and most of my trees are not close to the house. They're out in the open. So I'm going to cover a few more of my favorites, try and protect them so I have lots and lots of figs in the summer. So that's my job today. Just a few more. Most of them are protected well enough, I think. And then I looked ahead, and next week it's going to be cold again, and it's going to dip down even colder, and for 3 sustained days in a row. And that's what gets you. There's days in a row where it doesn't get above freezing, and the ground starts to freeze down deep and kill the roots, and kill, of course, the upper tree itself. So it's very, very important if you can. And I've neglected to do so, as I stated in my videos. I won't go over it. For like 3 years I got away with it. And then the 4th year, the cold winter killed my figs to the ground. And they bounced back beautifully, and now I'm trying to protect them because I don't want to do without them in the summer. So it's worth the extra effort if you have the time and the inclination. I have too many figs, and I'm growing older, but I got away from it for a while, and I've done that before too, over the decades. I've done it where I've gotten away with 3-4 winters, and boom, everything dead to the ground. It happened again, so I'm exercising a little more effort this year by getting out there and covering them. And like I said, it's very important because if anything, the cover around the tree protects the ground from freezing down deep, because it gets warm in the daytime and moderates the temperature inside and keeps the ground from freezing successively through the days due to the extreme cold winter that doesn't even get above freezing and goes way down to like in the lower teens at night, and maybe even the single digits. It's extremely important to take the stress off of the fig tree. It's all about accumulated stress. It's not really one night that does it. Really, it's over time. And the less stress that your fig tree experiences, the more it will be able to better tolerate the winter and survive. Of course, a fig is a fig is a fig is a fig. And certain times it gets cold and it's going to die. I don't care what you do to it. There were times when I used to put lights, electric lights, inside my fig trees, inside of my coverings, and I kept them alive. A little 15-watt bulb generates just enough heat, even in the coldest nights. And I had a switch from the house where I could switch it on and off. It was pretty cool. I don't do all that now because it's just so much. It's so labor intensive. And I've got figs growing all over the place, over at my son's house, here in Chincoteague. I have neighbors, I have friends, that I've given fig trees to all over the place. So I don't really need to do that anymore. But I am going to expend the effort to go out and cover my figs today. A few more, in hopes that I will be able to protect them from this very cold spell that's right now moving in on us. With that, thank you for visiting today. I hope you're as excited as I am about growing figs. I hope you're as excited as I am ever since the winter solstice, and we are past it now, and the days are getting a little longer each day, which means that spring is coming closer every inexorably, slow but inexorably. Spring is on its way, and that changes my whole mood from being on this side of the solstice and from being on the other. And I am very exuberantly, enthusiastically, ecstatically, effervescently excited, tremendously excited about this year's harvest. And just the whole thing, just growing them and watching them bud. And then, of course, right on through the season. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it too. We'll spend some time together. I have some more things that I want to talk about. I'm very excited about my grafting project down in Chincoteague. Very, very, very excited. And all of my varieties and all of what is the magic of figs. Good day.